1645 West, 650 South. If we put that pole up, that hideous pole up, it's my understanding they're going to put that on my property. That pole, or similar to it. Another thing,
I don't know if it'll be that one. That's the indication of going underground from there.
No,
So,
but I live in the county about 600 feet.
okay.
Okay? They don't understand right-of-way. If they get a right-of-way, they have to pay for the actual ground, but there's a thing called severance damages. So if you take 100 feet of my property to put poles like that, you got to pay me for the 100 feet, but you also have to pay me for the decrease in my property value.
Okay.
So they don't talk about what's happened to property values. And quite frankly, I haven't talked to anybody in this county that seems to give a damn about their neighbors. And I'm a neighbor, and I'll tell you what happened to me today. I've been to so many of these meetings, and I promise you I will never again come back to you. I've had enough. I posted my property for sale. I'll not live in this county, and I don't care what I have to give up on that property. But I'll tell you what happened to me today. I think Mr. Stack alluded to it. You don't hear the power company, all you hear them whining about how difficult this is, but not once did they throw out a number about the diminution of their neighbors' property values. Am I mistaken? Did I correct Doc when he mentioned that?
No, they glazed over it.
They don't have one appraiser to come in and say, what's going to happen to these property values? Well, I'll tell you what happened to me today. I got all excited. The realtor called. There's somebody interested in your ground. And I practically fell to my knees in Thanksgiving. He called back and said the guy that was really interested had just come from the power company. He's not interested. How much is that going to cost me? And where am I going to get it? Your folks aren't going to chip in to my little pot. No one's going to chip in. So when you make these decisions, make sure you remember a face, a human face, a family who's lived here 25 years, and you're going to put crap like that in front of somebody's property. Now this is just a small part of the city. But the story ran, as he went to look, they filled him in on the power station. And he was gone like a shot. Like I say, if you think I'm angry, you bet I am. I fought bypass roads, power lines, substations, and you've turned my neighborhood into a leper colony. Not you, but the other commissions. I've been to so many of them, you all look the same to me. I don't know how Jason sleeps at night when he sees what he's doing to property values. Did he once mention Fischler's? Did he mention the Georges? Did he mention the Hydes? He knows who we are. And he knows what it's doing to our property values. He's told us in a meeting these overhead lines don't diminish value. Now, out of all this battle, I really got to laugh. It was really funny. Because either he or his sidekick said, up in Wyoming, these overhead lines don't diminish property values. The antelope don't seem to care. Well, this isn't Wyoming, and I don't have any antelope on my property. But that's the view. So when you make these, I'm selling. And I'm getting out of this county. But just remember, there's lots of people like me and my wife and my neighbors. And we're in your hands.
Thank you, Mr. Fischler.
Heidi Franco. This has been my concern very much from the beginning on this, and this is why I sent you the email last month and today. I am so concerned that we have not explained the easement process for landowners. And there's an issue in my profession, political science, called private authority. And when you put Rocky Mountain Power up against these individuals, these landowners, that they're one individual against a multinational corporation, Rocky Mountain Power, that's owned out of an international corporation, that individual has really no power in order to get something fair for them unless they go to the judge, and there's a legal expense and it drags on and on. And I have felt very strongly that even if other planning commissions didn't do this in our valley, that we needed to be responsible as a planning commission in these public hearings to get a sample easement contract, to understand what the laws and the process is for the landowners, to see what their appeals process is, so that they're just not taking on Rocky Mountain Power individually and having no recourse or not understanding that process. I was really hoping that if you could please ask this of Rocky Mountain Power, what's a sample contract, what's the appeals process, what are the state laws that they have to follow, so that this landowner is not by themselves when they're trying to deal with the easements and the impact to their property values. I really hope that you would require that of Heber Planning Power. The next thing that I'm interested in is to know what is the cost now for Rocky Mountain Power to buy those easements compared to what it was before. With this new route and new ideas that have been presented just recently, has that cost dropped for Rocky Mountain Power or not? Because we were looking at, what, 8 million plus, as I recall, for Rocky Mountain Power to purchase the easements. What is that change going to be now? Thank you very much for your consideration on these things. And I just really hope that we can help our citizens, help the landowners as much as possible through this process. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? You probably know more about this than I do. I was just curious, is the state involved in this easement deal?
Well, that's what I'd like to clarify.
The state pretty much dictates how this process works, doesn't it?
I'm quite certain that that's why Rocky Mountain Power will not have to pay to bury the lines, because of the state law protection that they have.
Okay, but acquiring easements, I mean, that's all dictated by state code, isn't it?
And I would hope that Rocky Mountain Power legal counsel could explain that state code to us and the process and the appeals, and give us a sample contract so landowners know what's coming and aren't blindsided by the private authority of this multinational corporation.
Okay, I understand that. I guess what I'm kind of getting at, and I'm not being combative here, I'm just trying to understand the whole process, is basically what we're up against here is an administrative issue, more or less.
Yes.
It boils down to an administrative issue.
Yes.
We are constrained by state code, and we're constrained by our own code.
Right, so what is that code?
About what we can do. So basically, I think their stance is that that's not within our purview to require of them that information that you're asking for, because this is just a conditional use permit application.
Yes, and they quoted the conditional use code from the state. I understand that. That's not an issue with me, but I would like to know the eminent domain process, or this easement process that they will go through, because our citizens are going to experience it, and the county citizens and the Midway citizens are going to experience that. And have we done enough as a public body to help our citizens know what's coming, and what appeals they can go through? What is their due process? I would hope we would ask that of Heber Planning Power. I think I've talked about it before at previous meetings, and I don't feel like I have answers, and I'm not the eminent domain expert. And I know it's hard to get legal counsel. Maybe you want legal counsel from our city attorney, and I think you should ask for that. Our city attorney's not here, but we pay him to get these answers for us. So why can't you ask that? Why can't we see a sample contract in the agenda materials so that landowners know what's coming? I think that's fair to them.
My question, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So,
If you're okay.
That's okay.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm not.
You're okay having to ask me a question?
I'm just trying to understand, even if they provide that, is it because, knowing that, is it the price is going to change? Is there any repercussion or any advantage knowing that exactly?
Okay, but who has the advantage if we don't give this information to landowners? I'm saying the multinational corporation does, not the individual landowner.
But if the state approved it, and I'm just trying to understand, because again, time-wise, right? You, as a city council member, have approved quite a few subdivisions, right? So we look.
Oscar, check the voting record and you'll see that I have not been.
But I'm just saying, as a group, we have.
The majority have.
The majority have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So because of that, then I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm not either for or against right now. I'm just trying to see how we're going to cover ourselves for the next 15 years or 20 years if we stop this, or if you want to stop this. I'm just trying to figure out what we do.
I'm not a member of the Heber Planning Power Board. I was only there for 4 months and then I was removed. I do have my own ideas, but I'm not on the board, all right? There's always ideas. There's always ways to try to, build that capacity. This is one idea that has definitely been worked over for some time, but finally now in the agenda materials, the public can see what the actual contract was from over 2 years ago, right? That's not fair to the public. I'm trying to be fair to the public. That's all I'm trying to be. Is can we be a little more accountable to landowners that don't know what's coming at them and don't know what the contract could look like, don't know what the laws are, don't know how they can appeal without some very expensive legal bill. That's probably what's running through their minds right now. I would just hope that we would be as accountable as we can be in a public hearing to these landowners. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Ms. Frankel.
Hi, I am Kate Knapp. I live in Country Meadow Estates. So I live in a development that is going to be impacted by the pole change over near the rodeo grounds. And if you guys could pull that up, that'd be great. I have a question for Jason. Who's going to get to live in that house where the substation is going to be built? Because that house is vacant. Do you guys have a plan for that? Real quick.
You want me to answer
Is that, I'm curious.
For her own curiosity.
Sorry, I'm just, interested
Well,
in.
we paid for it, we might as well know who's going to be living in it.
Living in it right now.
No, so currently the previous owner, he wanted to do a lease agreement, and when that lease agreement is expired, then we will definitely look for some type of tenant to go into that home. But we plan on keeping ownership of that until all of this work is done. Then we hope to be able to sell the remaining 5 acres off with the home and recoup some of the cost of acquiring that property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No one's living in it. It used to be a family, and they had toys out there and all that stuff. And we walk down 650 South pretty much every day after dinner. And the gentleman who spoke prior lives in that green development to the south, or not to the south, but yeah. Yeah, it's one of the best properties in the valley, and it's really sad. But that whole corridor is a beautiful corridor. I know that's in the county. But to go back up, what he said has huge impact to everyone, and I think exactly what he said applies to the bypass project and even Envision Heber 2015. That's really the culmination of the pain that everyone's feeling when these developments or these projects happen. But anyhow, so I am curious with the permit, there was no mention of going back to our neighborhood, Country Meadow Estates, 650 South, they're going to have to replace the pole lines and bury the power lines, or bury the distribution lines underneath. And I'm just curious, there's a lot of vegetation and sidewalks in that area that they're going to have to dig up, right? So there's nothing in the permit that says, oh, they have to, if they're going to dig up a tree, they're going to have to replace that tree. I don't know. I'm very new to the civic process. So is that going to be addressed in their permit? I didn't see it. But there's a lot of meandering sidewalks that make that neighborhood feel small and quaint, and you don't feel like you have those power lines over you. And so I'm just curious, are they going to bury them on the other side where it's denuded, the vegetation's denuded, or are they going to bury dig up the street and bury those, or is it going to be on the sidewalk where, property owners are?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Norland, but I think you addressed that previously in your statement that you are going to have to replace those power poles and power lines, but it's going to be the same as it is now, right? So I guess when you're replacing those power poles, you will be disturbing.
Well, underneath there, they're going. That's the distribution.
If you want to sit right there, there's a microphone right there. You can address her question.
Yeah, so down that, so if you zoom in on that one pole there, Tony, you can see where there's two cross arms lower, and then the transmission is up above it. We will be rebuilding that to today's standard, but it will remain 46 kV, and it will remain that single circuit, that same type of construction there.
So when you say rebuilding, what does that mean?
Well, the poles are in need of replacement, and the conductor is too small. So we would have to put new wires on there and replace the pole. And today's standard is different than the standard was in the mid-70s when that line was built. So we'll have to build to today's National Electric Code standard. And then as far as where that underground will go, we're gonna work with Heber City. We're gonna work with maybe the landowners on the other side of the road. We'll try to find the best place that will mitigate any type of landscaping issues there. We could put it right under the sidewalk. We might have to pour a new sidewalk, but we could put that distribution right under the sidewalk or out in the roadway there.
Okay, does that answer your question?
It does, but there's no guarantee that they're going to uphold. Can we get that something in the statement, like in the permit, saying if you tear out a tree, you're going to replace that tree? Or, because they can essentially just come in and say, oh, the sidewalk, all of it had to go, we have to replace it.
Yeah, that's our standard practice anyway, whenever we're working inside of even our current public utility easements and subdivisions where we have underground. And that is to leave it the same as when we left it, and if that means replacing some, grass, trees, shrubbery, that's just in our business practice when we go about doing that type of stuff. So we work with each landowner, and if it happens to be a tree that we end up trimming all the time, and we generally will buy a new tree that is, more conducive to that zone. And but we're very conscientious of that. We're public power. They're our neighbors, and we want to be neighborly.
Thank you. One other question is, the train is one of our biggest tourist attractions, and why haven't we, you're still going to see these giant power lines. I know that the line is remaining the same, but they're going to be taller. And, you know, I drive home every day and there's the beautiful train and the station, but then you see the power lines. And it's like, here's an opportunity where, you know, the city could say, hey, let's pull the power lines behind the rodeo, behind the complex, where the view shed is already disturbed by the power lines, and move them back there. And I know you have to tie into the jail substation, and so continue that line across the street over towards the ballpark, where the view shed is once again already disturbed because of the high lights from the ballpark. And I can explain it more if you want to look at the Google Maps, because I know it's a little easier. And I don't have photos or anything, but do you know what I'm referring to, Jason?
I think if you wanted to get together with Jason at his office.
We have. I've
Oh,
met
okay.
numerous times with him,
Okay.
with my husband and I, and we've talked about it. And you know, the county owns that land, so you'd have to get easements and permits, but that is almost, you know, that's the job of Heber City, because it's within the city, to possibly put pressure on them to negotiate with the county to move those lines behind the rodeo. Because if you're in the rodeo, you're going to see those lines, and Timp is right there as well. So the view shed, this is our opportunity to clean up that view shed a little bit more.
Okay. All right, did you have anything else?
No, I don't know.
All right, thank you, appreciate your comments. Anyone else? I thought she was gonna come up, but she,
Hi, I'm Beth Lawrence. This is the first meeting that I have attended, and hopefully you have a whole lot more information than was presented tonight. I assume that's correct. You've been well briefed on all of this. What I heard tonight, though, were some questions from some of you that indicated to me that there isn't a whole lot of information. There's still a lot of questions about this. And so that's a bit concerning to me as far as the easements were talked about, and I wonder if even, you know, the properties have been detailed. Have they been detailed for where the lines are going to go? They have? Okay, good. And then I have a question about the power lines that are in our welcome corridor. Who owns those? Rocky Mountain Power or Heber Planning Power?
are you talking about the ones coming down Highway 40?
Yes, as you enter our beautiful valley.
Yes, those are owned by Heber Planning Power.
For now.
They're built.
It could have just died. Maybe that.
They were built as a part of this overall project, so, yeah.
And how do those compare? Are those like the, I don't know what you call it, I forgot, the end units that would take the lines underground? Are those comparable to those?
Yeah, they're comparable to the dead-end structure. So the dead-end structure, you know, they're a little bit bigger, and
Which is bigger, the dead end or the ones on Highway 40?
so there's a dead-end structure on Highway 40, and those would be similar to that structure in height and aesthetics, and there would be two of them next to each other on an underground drop.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry because I didn't attend the first meeting, but how high are the poles that you're projecting? And is that what they'll look like, or they're going to be wood structures? Because the photo you showed, I couldn't really tell, didn't look like anything.
So from this part of the project onward, because we've removed distribution, and because there is distribution on the Highway 40 lines, which makes, that them need to be taller and, a heavier gauge steel. We removed the distribution, and we're also able to go to wood. The reason that is all steel going out Highway 40 is because of the slight curve of Highway 40 and our need to stay within the right of way. But now we can start going straight. All the tangent poles will be wood, and then steel will just be where we need it for dead ends, or where we've got to pick up some strain because the line isn't, exactly straight.
And how tall will they be?
Heights, I think the heights that we've put in this application range between 70 and 110 feet. But the tangent poles, the majority of the poles are going to be in that 70-foot range, and but there is some metal poles that will be a little higher than that.
Thank you. I would just like to conclude by saying that about a few years ago, Heber Valley had a consultant come in, and there was a very nice program that was presented, and he gave all his ideas for how to enrich the valley, enrich businesses, make this maintain this as a really incredibly beautiful place to live. And one of the first things he talked about was our welcoming corridor as you enter the valley. Well, a few years later now, we have a corridor that, to me, I wouldn't want to come into Heber Valley if I were just visiting. Those power lines are the worst things I've ever seen. My point of this is that I think at this juncture, it sounds as though there aren't many other possibilities. I would question that and wonder if we've done enough homework to know if there are other possibilities, because when these lines go across the valley, they really are going to impact so much of the beauty of this place, and once they're done, they're done. You can't undo it. I think I wish we could find some other solutions, and I think there must be some, but I think it's a legacy. What kind of legacy do we want to leave about this? And I think we need some additional infrastructure, but I don't know. I don't know if we've explored enough trying to really protect our valley in a better way. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.